It's time to take a look at the auxiliary card next. This is the brand new way to run your Tau. If you want to run your auxiliary forces alongside your Tau, this is the detachment where they work in synergy to annihilate the foes of the tauempire. In this overview, we're going to take a look at the stratagems, the enhancements, and the key combinations that will make this detachment work. So join us in this video and let's find out if this is going to be the new way to run Tau competitively.
Coming up is going to be an overview of the brand new detachment that Games Workshop have been releasing for Warhammer 40,000. We're going to look at whether this detachment is going to be a competitive choice, whether it's going to be one that's more flavorful and narrative, and maybe something that you might want to consider trying yourself, or alternatively, what you need to know and look out for if you're going to be playing against some of these new detachments. Now, to take things a little bit further, on our members page, and if you want to become a YouTube member, the link's going to be in the description. You are going to get a list for this detachment, something that's super competitive, super flavorful, and we're going to make the most of what we can do with this detachment. Now, as we always say, we will try and help you use the models that you own, and we're going to give you some top combos that you can introduce into your list to really make the most of them. Now, not only that, but you're also going to get loads of additional members content, whether it's our live members lounge where you can get your questions answered, or even dictate our games that we play on streams on Fridays. And on our masterclass series, we go one step further. We show you the list, we show you how to deploy it, and we also show you some advanced tactics. And the best thing about that is that you're going to understand exactly how every single faction plays in the game of Warhammer 40,000, so you don't get caught out at the tabletop. We're all about helping you feel like you're able to compete at the table, and knowing all that information is going to be one of those steps to ensure that you don't get gotcha momented. So enjoy this detachment overview, and we really hope and look forward to your feedback and some of the best ways to play this detachment.
It's time to take a look at the auxiliary card. This is the brand new way to play your tauempire. So we're going to do an overview in this video. We're going to look at the stratagems, the enhancements, and also some of the key combinations that will make this detachment work. Michael, what is this detachment all about?
This detachment focuses heavily on Kroot and Vespid units. Okay, so once again, I apologise if you were really hoping for a all-in on the tauempire stuff. You have received a Kroot and Vespid detachment.
A Vespid detachment?
Kroot and Vespid detachment. They've got cool models. There are, however, some strong buffs for normal Tau units.
Okay.
Including and starting with, of course, the Detachment Rule.
Interesting. So what is the Detachment Rule?
And that Detachment Rule is the integrated command structure. So this is your Kroot and Vespid gain an aura.
What is this aura?
Well, they have an aura of 9 inches if a tauempire unit, excluding Titanic and Kroot and Vespid, makes a ranged attack against an enemy unit within 9 inches of your Kroot or Vespid, whilst also being visible to the Kroot or Vespid, then you get an extra AP. So in short, if a Tau unit that is not Titanic, Kroot or Vespid shoots an enemy unit within 9 inches and visible to a Kroot or Vespid, you get an extra AP against them.
Okay, I mean, it's pretty good. It's a good detachment rule. However, the issues I'm seeing, and maybe you'll have a different opinion here, is Kroot and Vespid are very easy to kill. So you're going to need to invest in quite a bit of Kroot and Vespid to throw near your enemy.
So 9 inches is quite far. These Kroot hounds, for example, you could just send them out and just stand near your opponent. The visibility thing is an issue, obviously. Vespid can move forward as well, because they're relatively speedy and they've got fly as well. So yeah, essentially you probably end up sacrificing Kroot and Vespid to get an extra AP against certain enemy targets.
It does seem like there's a lot of hoops we have to jump in order to get a detachment rule, basically, right? I mean, like, we don't really want to be losing units to get a rule.
This is true.
I mean, we're not saying that you're not having to die to get it, but you're more likely to die because of where you are. I mean, potentially if you use ruins and terrain to your advantage, you can project that threat a bit better, but it's still,
I think the most applicable way to use this is for those units that you normally would use to block your opponent from moving. So your move blocking units, Far Stalkers at the early stages of the game, units of Hounds, even Vespid to a certain point, just to stand in lines in front of your opponent. They're there, they're serving a purpose, which is stopping your opponent from moving, but you're also going to get extra AP against units within 9 inches of them, which may or may not be the ones you've move blocked. It could just be other ones that you think are going to be more damaging assets. That isn't everything you get, though.
Okay.
there is something to help give us a bit of a defensive buff for those Kroot and Vespid units.
Nice. What is that?
So this is the other half of the detachment rule. tauempire units, excluding Kroot and Vespid, get a aura ability. So while a Kroot or Vespid unit is within 6 inches and visible to a tauempire unit, they cannot be selected as a target of an attack by an attack coming from outside of 18 inches. Yeah, so what you've got here basically is an aggressive play style, or rather, the other way to see it is you can keep your assets next. So let's say we've got Ghost Keel, which your opponent can't shoot, and we've got some Kroot assets near them as well, which now your opponent can't shoot unless they're within 18 inches. So you can now send those Kroot units out one at a time, wave after wave, basically, and trigger your extra AP.
Okay.
So it's kind of a good way of protecting those units.
Yeah, absolutely.
But also potentially being able to score multiple different cards during the game, maybe even actions that require you to complete them through your opponent's turn.
Yeah.
So there's a few tactical aspects here, but it does certainly help those units stay alive.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially for the early parts of the game, potentially as well, when you're starting close towards the edge of your deployment zone, it means you could probably deploy in the line, which means you're not too worried about your opponent shooting your units turn one, right?
Yeah.
But we do have enhancements, so we need to look at them next. So what is the first enhancement?
The first enhancement's Student of Kalyon.
Okay.
Except it's not a Tau student, it's a Kroot student. This is Kroot Shaper only. And what you can do is you can pick 3 Kroot Carnivore or Farstalker units, and they can deep strike. Sorry,
you could deep strike Kroot. What did you do? Get booted out of the ship from orbit?
I don't really know how this relates to Kalyon either, but
Kalyon's this is a dark side of Kalyon. Just pushing them off the ships.
Right, we need extra AP against these guys.
Get out of there.
Some Kroot over there. Except you can't even get the extra AP because you have to land 9 away.
Yeah. Just throwing chicken at your opponent.
Believe in chicken.
Believe in chicken, right. I mean, look, it is good. I mean, giving Kroot deep strike.
It is handy.
Could you give Kroot Hounds deep strike?
No, it's Carnivores and Farstalkers.
Ah, right, okay.
Farstalkers really are going to start on the board anyway, because infiltrate.
Yeah.
But the Carnivores, potentially deep striking 3 units of 10 just to do actions or stage for then being able to trigger an extra AP against your opponent. It's interesting.
I feel really bad for the auxiliaries in this detachment. Do you know what? Yeah. Anyway, what's the next one?
It's the greater good.
It's the great. It's for the greater good, brother. Just throws them out of a ship.
Nothing wrong with that.
Right. Great. What's the next one?
Next, we've got Admired Leader. So this is a tauempire model, not Kroot. And this guy in your command phase can pick a Kroot or Vespid unit within 12 inches of them, and they give them an extra leadership and OC whilst they're not battle shocked until the start of your next command phase.
Okay, so where could you see this best applied?
Well, once again, we're sending the Kroot and Vespid forward to take an objective from our opponent.
Right, yeah.
Yes, so...
I really look up to you, sir. Right on, boy.
Off you go. Right, send in the hounds.
Send in the hounds.
Right, send the dogs in, +1 OC each, onto an objective. Vespid, send them in, OC 2 each. This is superb for just being able to put OC on your opponent's objective marker.
Yeah.
Stop them scoring primary. For me, probably an auto take.
Yeah, definitely.
In the list. I think it's so useful to have this. Deep strike, maybe. We'll have to think about that one.
Yeah.
Then we've got Fanatical Convert. So Kroot model only. They gain for the greater good.
So they get to spot.
They can observe and be guided.
Right. Cool. Are they going to survive?
Well, it's interesting because you could put this on the Lone Spear.
Ah.
Who is lone operative and can shoot decent as well.
Yeah, he's allowed to survive.
So he can live because he's on a salamander thing. Yeah, so a lone operative Kroot character that can also contribute to the fight, but also trigger your observing.
Yeah.
It's pretty useful. For me, probably an auto-include, because if we're going to try and include a lot of Kroot and Vespid units, then we're not going to have as much observing support for our Tau assets.
Yeah.
So this is a really nice way of getting that in there.
Does his reroll hits trigger for Tau units as well?
No. Right. No. Sadly not. That would be way too good.
Only the Tau can get benefits from the
Exactly.
Kroot. Yeah.
Exactly. This is a one-way partnership.
Yeah, greater good, eh? Okay.
Our greater
Our
good.
greater goods, but not yours.
Final enhancement is the transponder lock module.
It's a mouthful, isn't it?
It is a mouthful. So this could go on a tauempire walker model with deep strike.
Okay, so a commander.
A commander, basically.
Sure.
And what this allows you to do is you can deep strike in the first turn, so long as you deep strike within 12 inches of Kroot or Vespid, and not within 9 inches of the enemy.
Okay, right. So we can get some crisis suits deep strike in turn 1. Realistically, how is this going to really work? Because Kroot, we'd have to get them close enough to really get an impactful first turn shoot.
The thing is, you've got Farstalkers.
Yeah, true.
And I think Farstalkers is really the key here.
Yeah.
You're definitely running at least 2 units of Farstalkers. They're very, very useful. Obviously, you've got Trail Shapers to be able to redeploy some of them, to keep them a little bit safer. But being able to drop turn 1 within 12 inches of them, and also have them within 9 inches of the enemy, means you can drop turn 1 with an extra AP on all of your guns.
So maybe the flamer shoots, right? The Star Scythe would be really good.
Yeah, you've got a lot of good options here. Even something like the missile suits, because it's the start of the game, there's probably going to be units that are at starting strength.
Yeah.
But flamers is great. Even the burst cannons could be fantastic as well, because you've got the extra AP anyway against those non-vehicle, non-monster targets.
Yeah.
Now you're going to have another extra AP. So
you could even tee up Overwatch potentially with that unit, so it could be like your deterrent for your opponent getting an early charge or something potentially.
Yeah.
So I can see the uses for this one.
Yeah.
Maybe is it an auto include though?
For me, I think it is.
Yeah.
I think whenever we look at a detachment these days, and there's a way to deep strike turn 1, I think that is a pretty good thing to have in the army. Beyond drop pods, because obviously they're limited on their capacity, whereas this is just any walker unit.
Yeah.
You can just drop down. It's the threat your opponent has to deal with early on. And actually, when you have units like Farstalkers that can cover the entire midboard, your opponent cannot screen it.
No, true.
Especially if you go first.
Yeah.
So I think this, for me, it's probably an auto-include. I'd probably auto-include the extra OC one.
Yeah.
But the rest, meh.
Yeah.
I don't think the deep striking Kroot's big because you want them to be within 9 of the enemy. But it is quite funny pushing Kroot out of an Orca. So
it's going to set me off again, Michael. All right.
Okay.
It's honestly, I love it. I think the concept of this detachment is just hilarious. But at the same time, it's got, I would say, a mediocre set of rules so far, right? In terms of it, like, it's not game breaking, it's not like, but it's still good. It's going to benefit your army. You're going to be able to take this competitively.
Yeah, I think potentially. We've got stratagems to look at next, and this is a bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that at the end. But a lot of Tau players have wanted more AP built into their detachments.
Sure.
And this has given you that AP at the cost of having to run a bunch of aliens.
Yeah.
So.
Whoa. The aliens themselves, Michael.
Sorry, Xenos. They're all
Xenos. Yeah.
But a bunch of friends.
Yeah.
But not close friends. Friends, exactly. That you can go out and now trigger some of your buffs. Anyways, onto some stratagems.
Yeah. Let's take a look at them next.
Stratagem number 1 is pretty good, actually. So it's experimental modifications. For 1 command point in your shooting phase or the fight phase, you can pick a Vespid or Kroot unit, and they get an extra AP on all of their weaponry.
Okay. I mean, Vespid sound pretty good with this.
Vespid guns are pretty scary.
Yeah.
Your Kroot, now this is going to extend to your Rampages.
Ooh, gorillas.
So your gorillas. So this starts to look a bit more interesting on those guys. Beyond that, limited, but the gorillas and the Vespid are going to get a lot out of this.
No, definitely. Well, let's move on to the next one. What's the next stratagem?
So for 1 CP in the shooting phase or the fight phase, you can pick any of your tower units, and you're going to get reroll 1s to wound.
Nice.
If it's Kroot or Vespid, reroll all wounds.
Okay. Great on the gorillas again. On the
Great on
Rampages.
the gorillas. Great on the Vespid guns, the neutron blasters.
I love how that's the only picks we're saying are good, because they're the only 2 really inherently damage dealing data sheets out of the auxiliaries.
Yeah, it really depends what you're going into.
Yeah.
Because 20 Kroot into, a unit of, I don't know, Eldar, getting reroll wounds is probably going to be enough to kill the unit.
Yeah, if you slap it with AP1 as well.
Yeah.
It's definitely killing
Exactly.
Eldar.
And what we've got to remember is we get reroll hits from our Lone Spear,
yeah,
which is going to help us out.
Well, but he's sitting back, right? He's safe.
Well, it depends.
Okay,
Depends
right.
where the enemy is, right?
Maybe he's actually been sacrificed this game.
Interlocking maneuvers is our next one. 1 CP, end of the fight phase. You have to pick a unit that was eligible to fight. And what they can do is they can make a normal move of 6 inches.
Nice.
Or they can fall back.
Okay.
However, they can't embark in a transport.
Right. I mean, look, the falling back and shoot is good. And reactive move is good.
Yeah. So it's sending in a unit like, let's say, the Rampages, killing something, then being able to now move 7 inches with a fallback or move a normal move of 6. This allows us potentially to get out of line of sight ranges, maybe even duck into the you can't shoot me if you're not within 18 auras of some Tau assets. But I think even your tauempire units might be using this for some of the little tricks on the tabletop, sending in breaches against something that they're probably not going to kill, and then falling back to steal an objective marker.
Yeah.
Good as well for the unit that really admire that Tau character.
Yes.
And have the extra OC. You can kind of, your Vespid can charge something, which they definitely won't kill, fall back 12 inches with fly, steal an objective from someone. You could even steal your opponent's home objective.
Yeah.
Because that's 24 inches plus the charge of movement available to a Vespid unit.
Yeah, just don't charge into anything
that can kill you.
Yeah, I know we want to kill the Kroot and the Vespid in this detachment, but got to be strategic sometimes.
Of course.
Yeah.
Next, we've got pheromone waypoints. So, bit weird, but 1 CP in your movement phase. When you want to do an advance move for Kroot or Vespid, you can auto advance 6.
Okay, is that useful? I mean, I guess it means we can get closer to the enemy if we want to trigger some abilities.
Good if you want to move a OC2 unit to steal an objective.
Yeah, there's plays. There's definitely plays, but I mean...
Yeah. Well, there is a strat later on that might work well with this, but otherwise you're standing there to basically block your opponent in.
Okay.
Or guaranteeing your 9-inch to get the
to trigger the
extra AP. Exactly.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I think you did mention as well there is another stratagem that keys off this. So I'm anticipating some combo next, right? So what is the next stratagem?
It is the combo.
Right.
So alien expertise.
Right, okay.
So 1 CP, your movement phase, a unit that advanced can still shoot. If it's Kroot or Vespid, they can also still charge.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's pretty good.
It's interesting because one of the big winners of this attachment might well be the War Shaper, I think it is, that lets you do the stratagem for one less. So there's actually a lot of stratagems here that you can do kind of for free. And this is another one of them. Being able to send 20 Kroot potentially just to tie stuff up.
Yeah.
There's armies in the game that simply can't deal with 20 models.
Yeah, true.
And having maybe one of these units or 2 just to be able to send them forth and block your opponent, but also get a bunch of extra AP against all their stuff.
Yeah, no, definitely, Michael. I think that actually being able to advance and shoot with like things like Riptides or anything that isn't like the Crisis Commander that gives you assault or breaches because they have assault built in, but allowing your Riptides or your broadsides potentially just to get up the board and advance and shoot is a really strong stratagem.
Yeah. It would have been great if the auto advance 6 was on some of these Tau units as well.
Yeah.
It being limited to the Kroot and the Vespid is a shame. But at least you have a guarantee. If you've got 2 CP or maybe the War Shaper, you've got a guaranteed +6 and then advance and charge as well, and potentially even extra AP. This is a Kroot player's dream. But I think, the star here is probably that 20 Kroot unit that can take up the entire board, basically, because it can advance 6, it can then charge, it can then make a fallback move of 7 and just stand there. And I think that's probably the main threat in this detachment of just board play. The final stratagem is guided fire. So for 1 CP, you can pick a tauempire unit that's not Kroot or Vespid. And you get +1 strength to their ranged weapons.
Okay.
If your unit's wholly within 9 inches of Kroot or Vespid, you get +2 strength instead.
I mean, I'm already seeing the Star Scythe with +2 strength and potentially the extra AP as well with the Flamers. It's pretty good, right?
The biggest complaint Tau players have had is the strength of their weapons. An Ion Accelerator from a Riptide now being able to actually wound tanks is huge. The same goes for any missiles that the army's using, or even the plasma rifles now getting to strength 10 is really, really handy. So I think this is a stratagem that Tau players will really, really, really want to see in their army. Obviously, the rider is you have to have a bunch of kroot and Vespid.
But that's the detachment, though, isn't it? I mean, we effectively, I mean, we've seen detachments where you can take up to 1,000 points of another army. Maybe this is a similar situation where you're probably looking at roughly around 1,000 points of kroot and Vespid supporting the rest of your army to try and get these buffs off and the synergies that you need to make this detachment work, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You're kind of almost looking at similar buffs to Retaliation Cadre, because it was strength and AP for being up close, except you can now do this from a distance whilst your best friends go in instead. Yeah. And you get your extra AP, you get your extra strength on your weaponry, and you can still be guided and all that other good stuff. So this is kind of that half and half army. You've got a lot of those auxiliaries, and you can get a huge amount out of them as well. So I think Tau players that enjoyed trying to use the kroot detachment are going to really enjoy using this one, because it's kind of a fusion of the kroot detachment and I think Retaliation Cadre. I think Cadre is kind of a fusion of both of those.
No, absolutely. I can definitely see that, to be fair. Like you said, it's a hybrid, isn't it? And it's a very, I do think it's got competitive legs. It definitely can compete. But it's a different play style, which is it's good to see, right? It's something that's different and unique to other Tau armies.
Yeah, exactly. And I, for one, absolutely love running lots of different auxiliaries alongside my normal Tau units.
Yeah, and shoving them out of Orcas.
Shoving them out of Orcas and throwing them at the enemy so I can get my buffs.
Yeah, no,
it's
interesting.
Even though it doesn't feel like a full Tau detachment, I think this has got a lot of fun to it. You're going to be using all of the different aspects of the tauempire. If you love the lore, you're going to love this detachment. And I think there's a lot of scope for doing very well with a detachment like this as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, Michael, thank you for providing me your insights on this detachment, and hopefully you guys have enjoyed this overview of the new detachment for the tauempire. Let us know in the comments your combos that you're going to use in this detachment, or maybe things we might have missed. But thank you very much for watching, and we're going to do a competitive list next. That'll be over on our members side of the channel, so if you want to watch that, the link will be in the description below to become a member of the channel, and we'll see you in the next video.